All right, ladies and gentlemen and other, welcome to the 4Foot10 Podcast. I'm your host, Ariel Julie, and I am 4Foot10. So on this podcast, we talk about anything from the 90s, 2000s, early to mid 2000s that I am inordinately fascinated by and passionate about. As you know, I am a gay man in a woman's body, so I love musicals. So this week, my guest is the hilarious and stunningly gorgeous Kayley Horton.
Hello.
We are both Chicago comedians. We work together every week. We have a show on Friday nights at the Lincoln Lodge if you're in Chicago at 11 p.m. Come check that out. It's called After Hours. And Kayley and I are both inordinately passionate about musicals, but not just musicals, musical television shows. So today our topic will be the two, I would say like cornerstones of musical television. Like, these were kind of the two shows that were really, they did it first. Like, these shows paved the way for Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, for the Up Here, the Mae Whitman musical TV show that's coming out on Hulu. Like, these were the two shows that really did it first. I don't know if they did it best, but they did do it first.
Yeah.
So, number one is obviously Glee. Yeah. I tried to do like the way that they...
I noticed while I was also saying, I was like, oh, I should have pitched up.
And then number two would be Smash. Okay, so Glee versus Smash.
It's like two of the most evil things ever created vying for top spot.
Yeah, so, and there's a lot of backstory behind both of these shows and why they got made.
Sure.
So as we know, Glee is a Ryan Murphy production, and this is before American Horror Story, but this is after the show that I've been making Kayley watch. It's called Popular. It premiered on the WB in 1999, and Popular is like Ryan Murphy's like first foray into high school teen drama. And in the very first episode of Popular, the story is the quarterback of the football team wants to try out for the musical, and there's controversy about it. So that's just the pilot of Popular. Way more things happen. That's not the running through line of that show, but it is in the pilot. And so what I love is that Ryan Murphy went back and watched his own pilot and said that should be its own whole show.
Yeah.
And just created a show. He plagiarized his own pilot.
Yeah.
And created Glee. So Glee, we have what starts out as the story of a high school Spanish teacher who has...
I hate Ryan Murphy. Like, I want to fist fight him for all of his choices.
Who has dreams of Broadway.
Yeah.
And then Rachel Berry, that's Will Schuester. So then we have Rachel Berry, who is a high school student who also has dreams of Broadway.
Yeah.
Will has kind of accepted that he's not going to go to Broadway. Rachel is completely delusional and is convinced.
Will is a teacher, and Rachel's in high school. So she's like 15, 16 maybe.
Yes. And so
she thinks she's going to make it.
You have these two characters. And then in the middle, you have this guy, Finn Hudson, played by the late Corey Monteith, who is weirdly very talented at both football and singing. He's like a popular guy, but he's got a heart of gold. I know. What? Guys can do more than one thing?
Yeah.
No.
It's crazy.
No.
It's crazy.
In my high school, I went to Vernon Hills High School in Vernon Hills, Illinois, and the school, it wasn't small, but it wasn't huge.
Yeah.
In our high school, everyone did everything.
I feel like a lot of high schools are like that. Yeah. And I'm like, there are for sure clique-ish things in high school, but like there's a lot of overlap that television pretends does not exist.
Yeah, it wasn't like, we didn't have a huge bullying problem, at least not while I was in high school. So it's not like the football jocks bullied the argument. Like there were football players who were in my photography class. You know, like there were plenty of football players who also were in band.
It's crazy. You can be competitive and creative. Like those two things are not mutually exclusive traits.
And even if there was like a jock type athlete person who didn't do a lot of art stuff, they didn't bully the arts. They all came to the plays.
Yeah.
Like everyone in the school came to the musical.
Yeah.
And like the theater kids, we all came to the football games. Well, not me.
But it's more fun if we can pit them against each other for the sake of television.
So in this Lima, Ohio high school,
I heard it was Lima, Ohio.
The tensions between the two groups are at an all-time high for what appears to be no reason. And
until we find out who is kind of like running the popular kids' whole shindig, which is the iconic Sue Sylvester.
Jane Lynch. Can we take a moment to really appreciate?
We can take a moment.
From her cameo in season 1, episode whatever of Gilmore Girls, when Richard has a heart attack and they go to the hospital and she's the nurse who has to deal with Kelly Bishop as Emily Gilmore, all the way to Sophie Lennon in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Jane Lynch could do absolutely no wrong to me. She's incredible. Also incredible in Party Down. Not a Ryan Murphy show, but also like a weird offbeat comedy. Have you seen that with Adam Scott, Martin Starr, Megan Mullally in the second season? It's really good. They're all on Hulu.
Okay.
And they just released a new,
You sold me. I'm sold.
Party Down is a great show.
Okay.
Anyway, so my point is Jane Lynch is an incredible and she actually leaves Party Down to be Sue Sylvester in Glee.
Oh,
yeah. So
okay.
she left that series to go do Glee, which was a good. Glee was a phenomenon. It was a phenomenon.
It really was.
And I know people like give it all of this crap, like, oh, it's the part when in the first season when Will is like, you're all minorities because you're in Glee Club. People give him a lot of flack, and that was,
I want to sue Ryan Murphy for the trauma he's caused my brain. We were both developing children. How old were you when you were watching Glee? I was pretty little.
For me, it was high school.
Yeah, high school. So I was like middle school or late elementary school. Yeah. Like our brains were developing. Yeah. And this was like a pivotal part of our childhoods that Ryan Murphy is traumatized forever.
Yeah, well, there were a lot of issues that I think they handled poorly, but also not poorly, because the thing we have to remember is that these are high school kids, and high school kids are not fully developed, perfect people.
For sure, but it's like, why is there weird sexual tension between Mr. Schuester and like 3 of his students? Do you know what I mean?
Because
like, why is that happening?
What's his name? Matthew
Morrison was fucking them.
Matthew Morrison
in real life
dated Leah Michelle in real life. They were a real couple, and now he's her teacher. Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah. Well, and it's like one of the first, I think it is the first episode when he sees Finn. So Finn is the jock that's like, actually really good at theater.
In the locker room.
He's showering in a locker room singing Can't Fight This Feeling by REO Speedwagon. And Shu just hears him and is like, and like walks in and is like, who is this talented child? And it's like, his penis is out. Like, you're a teacher.
Well, in
Why are we doing
Perfect, Chloe corners Anna Kendrick in the shower, full frontal
but
naked.
There's no power imbalance there.
And then they harmonize Titanium.
Yeah, and it sounds awesome.
Great acoustics.
Yeah, it sounds great.
And the guy that Chloe's fucking in the shower, just full frontal, sees Anna Kendrick fully nude. Yeah. What an invasion of privacy that is.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of hints of like Glee in what turned out to be Pitch Perfect.
Yeah,
There's
a
lot of like...
There's overlap.
There is some overlap.
There's genre tropes for sure.
And I'm here for all of it. I love a good cover. I love it.
Yeah.
I really love it. So Glee, I would say very problematic in some ways, but very ahead of its time. I mean, its portrayal of gay relationships, lesbian relationships, the fact that
Ryan Murphy didn't even want half of those. Naya Rivera had to fight to be gay in the show.
Sure, but the other thing about these relationships is that they're not great to each other. Like Kurt and Blaine, they're shitty to each other. They cheat on each other. And I think that that's important to see that like a non-heterosexual relationship can still have its problems. Like we're just people. And that's kind of the thing about the equality there is that no, you can be equally shitty to each other, whether you're gay or straight or trans or bi or whatever you are. You could still be a shitty person. Even if you're...
Which is kind of the crux of Glee, is that they all suck.
That's my favorite part about Becky's character.
Yeah.
Is that...
one of the best characters.
She straight up has Down syndrome.
Yeah.
She is a special ed character. You know, back in that day, we would use the R word. We don't use that word anymore, I understand. Yeah. But either way, she's a bitch.
Yeah. Oh, she's
a
like
shitty
absolute
person.
cunt. Yeah.
She's a terrible person. Yeah. And it's like, special ed people with disabilities can also be shitty people. Yeah. Same with Artie. Artie's in a wheelchair. He is one of the most misogynistic, like short-sighted assholes. He calls Brittany stupid. And that's why she dumps him. Like, he's not a great guy. Just because he's in a wheelchair doesn't mean he's like nice.
Yeah.
But that's what I like about Glee is that just because there are sympathetic parts of these characters doesn't mean that they're great people.
Right.
A lot of them, in fact, are not great people.
I would argue most of them, if not all of them.
Is there any one character in Glee that is redeeming the whole time?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but Trouty Mouth?
Sam
Sam stays pretty pure.
He does stay pretty
morally the whole time.
They make him stupid. They do an Eric Matthews to him. They full on give him the classic.
Bring my boy Eric into the
classic Eric Matthews from Boy Meets World, where he starts out as just kind of a lovable, like not the smartest, tool in the box shed, whatever, but like he's fine. And then by the end, they make him just a total dumb idiot. And I mean, I like that they had him with Mercedes by the end, and they're like, this is like a real love thing, but I just did not feel any tension between those actors.
I know, I agree.
I wanted there to be.
I agree.
But there just wasn't.
I agree. You know who there was a lot of tension between, and I'm glad they put them together? Puck and Lauren.
Lauren Zeises.
They have really good tension together.
They did have some chemistry.
I think Mark Salling just has chemistry with like everybody.
Yeah.
Pedophile. The late Mark Salling.
I mean, I watched a documentary about him.
Did you watch the Glee one where they go through all three? I haven't watched it yet. But there's one where they go through all three deaths.
No, because I heard that in the Glee one, they mostly are just interviewing like background characters and like camera people and none of the actual like people. Do you listen to the podcast?
No.
With Artie and
I love myself. No.
And Tina. Mm-mm. Yeah, they do a podcast.
Tina?
Yeah, Tina.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. Tina Cohen Chang?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would listen to it, but I'm too busy listening to Back to the Beach with Steven and Kristen because I'm more obsessed with Laguna Beach and what happened there than I am with Glee.
I appreciate that.
I just assumed that Glee was probably really problematic and contentious the whole time. but I'm here for it.
I can't imagine. Well, yeah, I mean, Lea Michele seems like an awful human being from what everyone from the show has said.
For sure.
She seems evil.
But she's a great singer.
Yeah. Oh, she's so talented.
She's a very
wildly talented.
I mean, yeah. So we have Glee with its very rich but problematic characters, and it's over the top choreography and musical numbers. Over the top for like a high school.
Yeah.
But what I like is that it's so self-referential that like later on Sue is like, Will Schuester spent your entire yearly budget to construct an entire jungle-themed set just so you could sing one Katy Perry song. What? Which is actually insane.
Yep.
I feel like in Smash, which we will get to, this is an actual Broadway number, and a lot of their big budget things are kind of like the fantasy of like what's going on in their head.
Yes, there's a lot of like surrealist type stuff going on in Smash.
So it can be like this big budget thing that doesn't actually break a real bank because it's like somebody's concept. It's their idea of what the number could be.
Right.
But in Glee, it's like, no, they straight up just like rented the whole theater and they have a piano guy just on retainer, just always there.
They do, which is so silly. And then one of my other favorite like isms about Glee is that they'll do that. They have the piano guy and they're like, oh, I bet he'll just know this Lady Gaga song, and he does immediately. And do the do-do-do-do, you get the piano, and then they start singing it, and then all of a sudden there's just a full orchestra, like there's just a full band going on. Yeah. Nobody's there but the piano player. Nope. But we've got the whole ambiance of,
And how did they know when they do the mashups? Like,
how do they know?
They do all these mashups, and the band is just like, yeah, we're here for it.
And they don't inform anybody. Like Naya Rivera or whatever would just be like, key of E, and then they'll just bust it out, and it's like, what are you doing?
They're so good.
It's so good. It's so silly.
They're very talented.
Yeah, they're really talented musicians. I don't know why they're in Lima, Ohio, working with this Glee club.
I know.
That clearly doesn't give a fuck about them.
And it's so amazing that so many incredibly talented people would come from the same high school.
Yeah, literally.
It's almost like you casted them that way. Crazy. Okay.
Yeah. And also, like, why are we off topic, but like, why are we as viewers pretending that Mercedes isn't the best vocalist?
I don't think she's the best vocalist.
You think Lea Michele has a better range than Mercedes?
I think Naya Rivera was the best vocalist on that show. Rest in peace. Rest in peace, that girl
Rest in peace. Okay, that's fair too. Let's go there.
I think Naya Rivera actually had one of the best, like, forcing her character into the main, like, because she started as just one of the Cheerios, like one of Quinn's backup dancers and singers, and I think the first time she really sings is when she does the duet with Mercedes, The Boy Is Mine. And that's when you really hear that voice. And it's like that gravelly, kind of deeper, like that Amy Winehouse, but she can belt. And like her voice is gorgeous. Yeah. It is
I'm okay with that too. It's like, we could interchange either one of them, right? We're 1 and 2. I am totally fine with saying Naya is the best vocalist. why is Rachel Berry getting everything? Why?
Because she's a hustler.
She's
got a beautiful voice.
She's just like a white lady, right? Or she's a Jewish American woman.
She's a Jewish American. Well, actually, in real life, she's not. Leah Michele is not Jewish.
Is she not Jewish? Really?
She looks like Idina and sings like Barbara, but she is not, weirdly enough.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy.
Interesting. So she's just a white lady.
Yeah, she's just a white lady.
Amazingly talented.
Some
but
white
it's like
lady with a big nose.
They don't even pretend to give any of these other characters roles ever. It's like, you know it's either going to go to, as if Kurt is her competition. Like, stop. Naya Rivera and Mercedes are there.
I mean, right.
Yeah.
Well, so that's the thing about Glee is, in your opinion, whose story is it? Is like as a whole series, is this a story about Will or is this a story about Rachel?
Or is this a story about Sue Sylvester's fantasies?
Maybe. It started out as it could have been a story about Finn, but obviously his passing sort of shifted that narrative a little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's a good point. I would argue, I don't want to argue this, but I would argue it is more about Rachel just because of where the plot goes after she moves on to college. If it was about Shu, we would just stay at Lima,
That's
right?
fair.
We wouldn't move on to New York, I feel like.
I feel like the move to New York, though, was like the worst thing that could have happened. If they had ended the series when they won
ended after 4 or however 3? Was it 3?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah, they won nationals. They like climbed the ladder, and then when they came back to the school, no one threw slushies at them, and everyone was really proud of them. The throwing slushies, by the way, is that a real thing?
No.
Do people
can't
do
be
that
real.
to
That
bully?
can't be real.
That's assault.
Yeah.
That's actual assault.
Yeah.
Like
And could like harm your vision, probably.
Oh well, yeah. There was that episode when Sebastian from Blaine's old school throws the slushie, and there was rock salt in it.
Yeah.
And it blinded Blaine because Darren Criss had to do a different show. Also, by the way, Darren Criss made a little cameo in the series finale of Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Oh really?
Fun
You
fact.
told me this. Yeah, you told me this.
Fun facty.
We gotta talk about that at some point as well.
Oh my God. Yeah.
There's a lot. We have a lot of meat to dig into.
We have a lot to dig into. Okay. So, all right. So this was one of my original questions. Who do you think is a bigger villain? Sue Sylvester, who was obviously created to be a villain, or is it Will Schuester?
Will is like the anti-hero, right?
Kind of. He does a lot of problematic shit.
Yeah, he does a lot of problematic shit. He helps everybody on like a surface level, but it's also like he entrenches them more in his own problems.
Yes.
It feels like everything he does is self-serving. It's like if you do nice things for other people just so that they say thank you and you feel good about yourself, are you really being nice?
Yes.
Or are you trying to get something for yourself?
Yeah, and also
that's what his motivations feel like.
Like we see that Emma Pillsbury is in love with him from day one, and there's clearly like a little love thing there, but he has his wife Terry at home. Terry, other than faking a pregnancy, did nothing wrong.
She's kind of a nightmare.
She's crazy.
Yeah.
She didn't cheat on him. She faked a little pregnancy.
She just faked her pregnancy with her husband.
Yeah.
And was trying to adopt the baby of his student without him noticing or knowing.
Yeah. She was just gonna sneak out her pillow.
Also, the canon that she just doesn't let him see her naked ever, and that's how she got away with it for months and months and months.
One of my favorite lines from the pilot of Glee is when Terry comes in and she's like, "Don't look in the Christmas closet." I just love that they have a Christmas closet because she works at Sheets and Things.
Yep. I wonder, they don't really go into what happened to Terry.
She leaves. She comes back a couple times.
Does she? Did they say what she's doing?
No, but she came back in the series finale when they do a big musical number. Yeah, she comes back, and then Emma gives her like a little look, like, "What is she doing here?" But she and Will just kind of like embrace, and
I want to know because she has no marketable skills. No. She's a nightmare. She must
have
found
a manager at Sheets and Things.
She must have found a rich guy to hang on to.
She was pretty. Well,
she's pretty.
So that was their backstory, is that Will and Terry went to high school together, and she was like the popular goddess, Glee Club, all of that. And now he basically has never left high school, and she's like trying to move on, but she's like that popular pretty girl in that small town who can't make it, in the big city. And so she just kind of settles for the nice popular boy that she did in high school. And then they have this kind of humdrum life together. And so Will's like, let me live out my Broadway fantasies with let
me project that onto children.
Yeah. In a not healthy way.
In an unhealthy way.
With a lot of choreography and costumes.
Yeah.
And let me sleep with every available woman on the way. Let's recap. He sleeps with Kristen Chenoweth, who plays April. He sleeps with Idina Menzel, who plays Shelby. He sleeps with Holly Holiday, played by Gwyneth Paltrow.
You're so right.
Who later breaks up with her real life husband, Chris Martin, to marry showrunner Brad Falchuk. Yeah. We didn't know this?
She's married to Brad Falchuk?
Yes, she is.
I did not know that.
Yes. He also dates and sleeps with, obviously, Emma Pillsbury. And then there's his wife, Terry, who he does sleep with after they've separated.
Yeah. He's laying pipe. He really is.
Yeah. Will is very problematic. Okay. Was there anyone else that he slept with?
I mean, your memory's better than mine, truthfully.
And then
I mean, in reality, he like ran through the cast, but of his quote unquote students. Well, that's what happens when you like make your students and teachers like 3 years apart in real life, right?
Yes.
Like I think Corey Monteith and him are like a year or two. They might be the same age.
I mean, they're very close in age.
Yeah, extremely close.
And so that's also a very long-standing trope of casting grown adults as high schoolers.
Yeah.
Now, the worst best example of this is the classic 1970 whatever film Grease. I think 1976.
Yes.
No, maybe earlier, maybe 3.
Yeah, they are all in their 40s. They look
clearly in their 40s.
They look crazy.
Olivia Newton-John and John Travolta are in their 30s.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And they look younger than the rest of the cast.
But what I like about Grease is that these are clearly adults playing high school kids, and that's sort of part of the camp.
It's
of
part
it.
of the fun.
And then you're not even mad that they do whatever because you're like, I'm watching a bunch of adults hooking up with other adults.
Right.
So it's okay.
Right.
But Glee is like, they look young and they're all way too skinny.
Yeah.
And they're kind of around the same age,
Yeah.
but they're supposed to be in high school. And
Yeah.
it starts out they're sophomores.
Yeah.
Like,
so they're supposed to be like 15, turning 16.
They're supposed to be 15 years old.
Yeah.
And the only one who looks it is that Jewish kid Jacob, who like works for the paper, who's like in love with Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay. Let me really quickly go from Glee to Smash. We'll come back to Glee, but
it's sister.
But Smash has said the creators and the actors in Smash have said many times that what Glee did is what paved the way for shows like Smash to do musical television. Obviously, Smash only ran for 2 seasons, whereas Glee ran for 6, 7.
I was thinking 6 too. 7?
6 or 7.
A lot. More than Smash.
It was 3 years of high school and then maybe 2 or 3 years in New York. So it would have been 5 or 6 seasons.
I want to say 6. I could be wrong.
It doesn't matter.
Who cares?
Comment, whatever it is. I'm sorry. You guys know more than I do. So, but Smash, this is, if you're not familiar, Smash is the episodic television show that takes place on Broadway in New York of its era, which was about the mid-2000s. And this is a show about Broadway actors actually trying to make it on Broadway, as well as Broadway scriptwriters, directors, and I think gives a pretty reasonable taste of what really goes into producing a big budget Broadway musical. Of course, there is drama. Of course, there is some infighting. Of course, there is, silly, like,
Which, now that I'm thinking about it, Smash was absolutely influenced by Popular, because what is like the main crux of like the first episode pilot is like these two, they decide.
Oh, Brooke and Sam.
Yes. There's 2 women. One's like a quote unquote frumpier brunette, even though Catherine McPhee is like the most beautiful woman in the world. Yeah. And she's like, she's like a girl next door.
Yeah.
And then there's like this actress supreme Broadway star, blonde Megan Hilty.
Yeah.
And they have confrontation because they want the same thing. Like,
I mean, pitting a blonde against a brunette
is classic.
It's a classic. It's the easiest way to be like, look, they're different.
Yeah.
See their hair colors?
One's an insider, one's an outsider. The outsider's probably brunette because we don't like brunettes for some reason.
Yeah.
Like,
but they're both extremely talented.
Yeah.
And also extremely insufferable in their own special ways.
Yeah. So Ryan Murphy has had his fingers in pop culture
kind of
for so long.
But Smash is a Teresa Rebick creation produced by
Steven Spielberg. You guessed it. Doesn't Steven have better I love Smash, but like, doesn't he have better things to do with his time and money?
No, this was his passion project.
Like, the man is making masterpieces left, right, and center.
Steven
including
Spielberg,
Smash.
The director of Schindler's List. Yeah. The director of War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
The director of
Jurassic Park.
Yes.
Like,
thank you. And he's
E.T., I believe.
E.T.,
well?
yeah. And he's like, you know what television needs? It needs Broadway actors singing covers of pop songs and fighting to play Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
And then, so Teresa Rebick's the creator. How did Teresa and Steven meet?
I need to know, like, what gay bar they were hanging out at. Because you know Steve's on the DL. Like, you know. I need to know, like, what type of cosmopolitan they had where they were like, you know what?
And why wasn't Dakota Fanning involved? You know
why
Steven loves Dakota.
Yeah, good point.
I don't know.
Good point.
And like, the biggest thing...
She's probably too little.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean... The biggest thing about Smash that we noticed when we did our rewatch, because Kayley and I rewatched the whole thing, it's really how we became like closer friends.
We rewatched the whole thing, and literally like 3 months before we did that, I rewatched season 2 with my other girlfriend, and so just brain rot.
It's all in there.
It's all in there.
Well, let's talk about the fashion, because fashion on Glee and fashion in Smash is very iconic of its time.
Half of the fun of Ariel and I watching Smash together is us just going, chunky necklace, chunky sweater, braid. Like, they do the same thing for all the characters.
So Smash season 1 is fully outfitted by Target. Like,
yeah.
Clearly.
They couldn't even afford ModCloth.
No.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I remember ModCloth.
Yeah.
See, and that's where Glee...
that's where Rachel Berry, she got her hands on some ModCloth.
Yeah, Rachel's wardrobe is straight up like 50s style, like or 60s.
Tweed. It's just tweed.
It's tweed. It's like the little dog sweaters with the short,
with the Peter Pan colors.
Very short skirts.
Short skirts, but tights. And like Mary Jane's.
Mary Jane's and tights. Yeah. And then like Quinn
like
and
plaid skirts.
They were all just in their Cheerios uniforms, which is a genius name for a cheerleading squad. Cheerios. Yeah. Oh, that's so precious and perfect. Suit.
And shoe dresses like as like the stereotypical like.
It's a button-down shirt.
He's just wearing button-downs and
Why
like
is he wearing a tie? He wears a tie to work.
He does wear a tie.
At a high school.
He does wear a tie.
As a Spanish teacher.
Yeah.
Who does not speak Spanish.
No.
At all.
Who's canon terrible at his job. Like, why?
Yeah.
They keep him around.
Remember that episode
He's not good at teaching Glee.
Ricky Martin comes in for one episode and Will is like, hey, Ricky Martin, you should be the Spanish teacher. And he goes, you're right. And then we never see Ricky Martin again. And then Will just becomes a history teacher.
Yep. Yeah.
And he also doesn't...
Seamless transitions.
Doesn't
Glee
know
is known
anything about
for it.
history.
Yeah.
What?
Yep.
is happening? Okay.
And then Holly Holiday comes in and is like as a sub and is like a way better teacher than he is.
In all subjects.
And it's, why are we employing Will Schuester?
Also,
he's bad at his job.
Gwyneth Paltrow, huge through line in Popular. Because Nicole and Mary Cherry are obsessed with Gwyneth.
Oh.
And for her to like come on Glee, Ryan Murphy, he was like crushing on Gwyneth all through Popular. And when he got to Glee, he's like, if I could just get Gwyneth. And he gets
They're
Gwyneth.
probably buddies. They've probably been buddies.
You know that Nicole Julian and Mary Cherry on Mary Cherry Island are shitting their Prada pants.
Yeah.
Watching Gwyneth on Glee. These are popular characters. Nicole Julian is the reason why I say thank you all the time.
Yeah. I don't know if did we go over in this episode that Popular was Ryan Murphy's first child?
Mentioned it.
Okay.
I mentioned it at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. Sandra Oh is in it. She says retarded. In context, she says it in the show, which is a thing that could never happen in today. But Glee has a lot of problematic moments that could also never happen.
Has a lot. Like, the more you rewatch it, the older it gets, the worse it feels.
You're like, this is...
Yeah. Smash, not so much. I feel like Smash didn't have, like, any overly problematic...
Smash actually holds up really well, I think.
Yeah.
Like, as far as just pop culture zeitgeist, like things you say, things you don't say, because Smash takes place within a very realistic Broadway community. There are a lot of gay people in the Broadway community. They're there, and their sexuality isn't like a point of contention or like a point of plot. They just are gay characters.
It's a society in which that exists because...
Yeah.
If you hang out with any theater kids, guess what? You're hanging out with queer people. Like, I have news for you.
Yeah, like Christian Borle's character is he's just a gay man, and he dates.
And they don't make a thing of it other than to introduce love interests for him to
who are other
pursue.
gay men,
right?
Like for one,
Leslie Odom Jr. plays his boyfriend.
Yes,
two straight men playing gay men is something so silly and fun about that.
And honestly, they have so much chemistry.
Yeah, they really do.
They really did. They really did. Okay, so Smash is the story of a big city girl, Ivy, played by the Broadway star and phenomenon Megan Hilty, and the small town girl from Iowa, Karen Cartwright, played by Katharine McPhee, who was discovered on American Idol. So it's actually a pretty parallel story to their real lives. Like, Megan Hilty has been in Broadway and she's done all these things. Katharine McPhee was literally discovered on a reality show, and now they're both kind of vying for like the same part, but they're very different energies. Katharine McPhee is 2.5 feet taller than Megan Hilty, so they always put Megan in these like giant platform pumps, which hurts my feet watching her do all this choreography. In these platform
She does it flawlessly. She's so trained.
They're so good.
Yeah.
They're so good. So you have like the chorus, the girl who's always in the chorus, and the girl from the small town who doesn't deserve it yet, and they're both
who's
vying,
like a rising star,
right? But she's like got talent, you know, and they're vying for Marilyn Monroe for a Marilyn Monroe musical that later becomes Bombshell.
Yeah.
So this is the story of like the writers, how they're kind of writing this musical as they're writing it, their process and casting of the musical, auditioning for the musical, figuring out these musical numbers, getting the right people involved, and investing money producing it. That's Eileen Rand's story, played by the amazing Angelica Houston,
She's amazing.
She does no wrong in this show for me.
Well, and the show's so interesting, I think, for people that specifically like are into theater or have been in productions before, like we've both been, because like you see like that is how it happens, and you see the backstage of what it is to be on Broadway. Like, you don't start out and just go to Broadway. Like, no, you're writing songs essentially at first, like a concept piece, and then you need people to perform them to get validity, and then you need funding to be able to do workshops.
Yes.
And then you need that workshop to go well to you to move it to a bigger workshop.
Yeah.
And it's the whole first season is that whole process of just trying to get something on a stage.
Yeah.
And you see these actors that are like, Megan Hilty is in the show and in real life one of the most talented performers like on Broadway.
And it's amazing on the show, they're trying to get us to believe that like she's someone's second choice.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah. There's not a single thing she doesn't nail in the show.
So here's the thing. Leah Michele is Rachel Berry. She really does steal a lot of scenes in Glee. Okay? She can sing her ass off. When she sings My Man from Funny Girl in that one, when she's auditioning for West Side Story, and Jessie St. James wants to know if she's singing about him, but she's clearly singing about Finn, she blows the roof off of that song.
Yeah.
If you put Leah Michele or her character, Rachel Berry, in the same room as Megan Hilty and Katharine McPhee, no contest.
Yeah.
She does not hold a candle.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Katharine McPhee might be this like small town girl, but she can sing. Have you heard her version of She Used to Be Mine from Waitress?
Yeah.
It's so good.
That's not a particularly difficult song to sing, though.
Shut up. It's so good.
It's just a beautiful song.
Oh, she makes me cry.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good.
Well, I would argue, I think it would go Katharine, Leah, Megan at the top.
Oh, really? You think Leah's a better singer than Katharine McPhee?
I do. I think she's way better.
I don't.
It's especially for Broadway performances. I don't really want to see Leah Michele singing like pop anthems, but if we're putting you on stage, I want to see Leah Michele.
She does sing pop anthems, though. A lot.
Leah Michele?
Yeah,
Well, I don't listen to those bitches.
Yeah, okay. So Ivy versus Karen, I think it's very clear that Ivy / Megan Hilty is the far more talented performer and absolutely deserves the part of Marilyn.
And it's so silly because the whole like first half of the first season is them being like, I don't know who we should pick. We're like bouncing between one of these girls is like a beautiful, tall, really thin brunette who's like pretty good. And then this other girl is like a robust, like sexy, voluptuous blonde woman who is technically trained and way more talented than the other girl. And the whole time they're like, I don't know who we're gonna pick. Who's Marilyn? And it's like, God.
The one who is Marilyn. And then we're all mad at
The one
Ellis.
who looks like Marilyn's twin.
And then Ellis, who's the villain of season 1, he's someone's shitty boyfriend or whatever.
He's like an assistant.
Oh, he starts as Christian Borle's assistant.
Yeah.
And then he snakes his way into being Eileen's assistant.
Yeah.
And he's just just like a little shit. He's just a little shit.
Yeah.
He's just a little turd of a guy. He's the worst, and he's like a little weasel.
He's kind of only there to start problems in the show.
Yes. However, in like this final episode, when he poisons Uma Thurman's character, who is going to play Marilyn, and he says to Eileen, and he's like, I poisoned her with peanuts because Ivy is Marilyn. He's not wrong.
He's real for that.
He's so real.
He's real for that.
I mean,
I forgot they just abandoned both girls at one point and said, let's get Uma Thurman.
And she can't sing.
And she's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
and she's also like
that was a
8 feet
W
tall.
for Ellis. I'll say it.
Yeah.
He won that episode.
He was absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. He does not come back for the second season. So the second season of Smash is now, okay, so now we've left behind the excessive amount of scarves and chunky jewelry and layers upon layers of like dresses and we haven't even talked about Deborah Messing.
Oh, yeah. Well, Deborah Messing is a core character.
So do we think that Deborah's
incredible.
the equivalent of Will?
I mean, I don't think there's like a 1-to-1. If there's a 1-to-1, I think Derek is Will.
Obstacle.
So I loved watching Smash because I was like, is that Commodore Norrington from Pirates of the Caribbean? And it absolutely was.
It is.
And he tears it up. He's incredible.
He is. He's so good at having terrible hair.
It's like the worst hair I've ever seen in my life.
Just being British.
And just fucking everybody around. See, that's the thing. I think Derek, Commodore Norrington, is like an adult version of Will, because that's what Will would be doing. Will would be sleeping with all of his quote-unquote students if they weren't
but Derek
children.
Is so much more suave than Will.
I know.
And gives so many fewer fucks.
I agree.
Will is like,
he's hotter, yeah.
He is hotter.
Yeah.
I think Matthew Morrison...
He's also British.
I know. Matthew Morrison might be like physically more attractive.
No. Maybe.
Derek?
He scares me.
What is Derek's real name? I forget.
Who's to say? Do you want me to look it up?
Could you? I forgot his real name. But his eyes are so close together. And he cannot be that good in bed. I've slept with British dudes. They suck.
Yeah. Well, they probably think their accent, I guess, can get them away with stuff,
but you know what, Kayley? I've learned this over the years. You can't fuck an accent. You can't. Just because a dude has an accent or tattoos, it doesn't mean they're good in bed. Jack Davenport. Thank you.
He looks like a Jack Davenport, too.
Jack Davenport. Jack Davenport. Yeah. Ivy. Like, I just...
Ivy.
Ivy. Karen!
Yeah.
Get me Karen Cartwright! Just introduce a little Cockney into Broadway.
And they do some of the best, like, television numbers I've ever seen performed. Like, National Pastime, the song about Marilyn Monroe, and, like...
and the baseball.
Yeah,
diamond.
it's a whole baseball scene, and it's just, the songs are so well written. Because, like, Glee does covers. Glee does very, very few original songs, and the ones they do are not very good.
Loser Like Me was cute.
It's cute, but, like, no one's like, I'm, like, putting on National Pastime, and I'm listening to it.
But what I will say about Get It Right and Loser Like Me is that they sound like they were written by decently talented high school students.
Sure.
They were pretty realistic for, like, a high school student with some talent would write that song.
But I like that Smash is, like, they do some covers, which are never as good as the originals. Like, their original songs are incredible, and they're writing songs for the musical Bombshell with Marilyn Monroe.
Yeah.
So they're, like, all very thematically accurate songs, and they have incredible choreography.
Yes.
Whoever was choreographing it loved an ensemble, because every song has it in, like a 20-person ensemble
huge ensemble
number.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It could just be like, yeah.
Yeah, Glee is very like snap,
right,
side,
right,
and snap, and
which
snap.
makes sense because like Shu is quote unquote
the choreographer,
and of course he's not going to be good.
Yeah,
but it's like Smash is so silly too because they'll be like, well, we need a new number, and then like 3 hours later it's fully choreographed with a full ensemble.
Yeah, with costumes and lighting and a whole,
and it's so fun,
a whole deal.
But you're right, they do a lot of like surrealist moments where you're like, oh, was that even real, or was that like in her head?
That was in his that was like in his mind's eye.
Yeah.
I see it. It's gonna look like
That's
this.
the vision. Yeah.
And then they do a lot of like split takes where it's like, here's the vision, but now we're back in the rehearsal room, which is, I'm thinking about National Pastime.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's in the pilot.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So the first season of Smash, we're talking about the musical Bombshell, which is the Marilyn Monroe musical. In the second season, we get introduced to some new characters, namely our very, very favorite Jeremy Jordan. The beautiful, the talented, the very boring in real life.
God, he sucks. I would never want to hang out with that guy.
What was that movie you made me watch with him?
Was it Joyful Noise?
Yes.
With Dolly Parton, Queen Latifah, Keke Palmer, and Jimmy Jordan.
What a weird...
Incredible film.
What?
So bad.
This was so bad.
Yeah.
And, like, that one black lady, like, kept dating these guys who kept dying on her.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Well, if you have extra time in your day, watch Joyful Noise. It's a treat. But, Jeremy Jordan shows up in season 2 with Andy Mientus, who we, like, don't really care about. Like, the show clearly does not care about Andy the way the rest of us.
No, but he's a bi hero. And
he's the king.
He is the king. And he has no talent for this at all.
Yeah.
He doesn't actually make a contribution to anything artistic until his second to last episode.
Yeah.
Where it turns out, has a knack for dramaturgy.
Yeah.
Which, like, I was a theater major.
Which is a dumb pivot.
Oh, if you couldn't tell, I was a theater major. I feel like I've buried the lead. I was clearly a theater major. And dramaturgy is a real part of theater. Do you know much about this?
Not other than what I know from Smash.
So in any theater production, you have your director, you have your stage manager, you have your costume designers, your set designers, your lighting designers, your sound designers, you have your producers, you have your script writers if it's a new musical, and if it's even if it's not a new musical or if it is, the dramaturg is the person who kind of reads through the script. They look for plot holes, but also they are making sure that the script is accurate to whatever time period it's in. They're
the references are correct.
The references make sense. Or if it's like an older, like if you're doing a Chekhov play, you might want to have a dramaturg to research like the way that Chekhov plays were originally produced, what the original casting and costuming looked like, so things can be basically consistent.
Sure.
So a dramaturg is like a very research heavy kind of person. So in the second season, when Deborah Messing's character has to work with the guy who played James Holt in The Devil Wears Prada, and he's the dramaturg, Pete, whatever. So he plays the dramaturg, and he basically helps her rewrite Bombshell to be less about like just this cute little Marilyn Monroe, woo!
And we should say by this point, they've given the role to Ivy, Megan Hilton.
Karen. By season 2, Karen has it.
Karen has it? When did they switch over?
In the season finale, when they put the
because in season 2 she's doing Hit List the whole time.
Well, not the first couple episodes.
Oh,
season 2 opens up with so here's where we leave season 1.
Sorry, I have my whole.
It's okay. All right, quick
recap.
Quick recap. Okay,
as if we didn't just watch this a year ago with you.
I know, right? Okay, season 1. Deborah Messing and Christian Borle are 2 writers on Broadway, and they want to create a new musical called Bombshell, the musical about Marilyn Monroe. Eileen Rand, played by Angelica Houston, wants to produce it without her no-good ex-husband, Jerry, who she throws martinis at his face because fuck that guy. So she's going to put on this musical, and Derek Wills, they get Jack Davenport to play Derek Wills, and he's going to direct the whole thing, even though he and Christian Borle's character have bad blood or whatever, they still get him to do it. And now their choice for Marilyn comes down to Ivy, played by Megan Hilty, and Karen, played by Catherine McPhee. Who will they choose? Initially, they do, after many rounds of auditions, which would not happen in real life, after many rounds, they do choose Megan Hilty, Ivy, to play Marilyn, and that's totally the right decision. And then they have rehearsals, and then finally they get to the workshop, and the workshop doesn't go great. And so after the workshop, they're like, we need a star. That's what it is. We need a star. Megan is great.
That's where Uma comes in.
Yeah, Ivy is talented and she's great, but she's not a star. We need a star. So they get Uma Thurman to come in to play Rebecca Duvall is her character's name. But she's a movie star. Turns out she can't sing, but they fix her up and they make it like doable. They bring it to Boston, which is where you're going to initially do a Broadway run, is not on Broadway, but you might take a show to Boston. You might take it to Chicago. If it plays well in those places, then you would take it to Broadway. So they take Uma Thurman to Boston. She gets really nervous and scared, and she doesn't want to do it. She also starts sleeping with Derek, who has been sleeping with Ivy for the past most of the season. And so that causes all kinds of tension. Catherine McPhee is in this relationship with this guy, Dev. They're engaged, sort of, or they're whatever. He sucks and whatever. So we get to tech. And everyone's freaking out. Ellis poisons Uma Thurman with peanuts. She doesn't want to go on stage. So now it's like, Karen was the understudy because Ivy had this like pill crazed freak out moment in the musical she was in, Heaven on Earth. So they like fire her, but then she kind of gets back in and she can't be the lead anymore because she's unstable. But like, so now Karen's the understudy. But when Uma Thurman is sick, who are we going to choose? Ivy already knows the part because she already played it. But Karen is the understudy. Derek, everyone's like, pick Ivy, pick Ivy, pick Ivy. Derek's an asshole and he picks Karen. So she has to learn the entire show in about 7 hours, which is completely...
Which apparently she can do.
Yeah, and the finale song hasn't even been written.
Yeah.
And somehow she learns it. And none of this is realistic. But it is fun, and it's a very high-tension season finale episode. So she finds out Deb cheated on her with Ivy, and so she dumps him, and then she is like, I'm just going to go kill it as Marilyn, and she goes on stage as Marilyn, and she kills it. Ivy, we see her contemplating suicide in the dressing room, and that's the end of season 1. Season 2, we open with Karen is playing Marilyn on Broadway, or not on Broadway, in Boston, and she's getting a lot of acclaim. Megan is still there, Megan Hilty. Ivy is still part of the ensemble, but she's kind of bummed about it. And through the first couple episodes, that's when Ivy is like, I don't want to be in this show anymore because it just sucks, and it's hard, and I'm not dating Derek, and I didn't get the part I wanted, and I slept with Karen's boyfriend. Like, I suck. So that's when she goes to do liaisons. With
that's right.
With the guy from Will and Grace.
Yes.
Sean Saves the World.
Yes.
What was his name?
I don't remember.
He was on that show with Deborah Messing.
The other guy who's not Will.
Yeah.
In Will and Grace.
Yeah. Well, the guy who isn't dead.
He's dead.
One of the guys is dead. Not the guy who was on Smash. A different one.
Okay.
It's
okay. We'll talk later.
I'm so sorry, guys.
We'll get into it.
I really got on these tangents. This is on me. So Ivy is trying to do this other musical. Karen is actively playing Marilyn, but then Derek leaves, and then Tom Levitt, played by Christian Borle, takes over as director, and they just don't jive. Like, Tom would have cast Ivy, not Karen, and so they kind of try to make it work, but then Karen's getting involved with Jeremy Jordan and the show Hit List, and eventually she's like, I don't want to do this version of Marilyn. I want to go do Hit List. So then Ivy comes back as Marilyn, and then that's where the musicals kind of stay till the end of the season, is we have Karen over here doing Hit List, which is with Jeremy Jordan and Derek Wills, and the guy from Rent, he played Tom Collins.
Jesse something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owens?
I want to.
I feel like that's a baseball player.
Jesse Owens is the runner, like of the World War II track athlete.
Yeah, he's a runner. He's an athlete. Yeah, I don't know his last name. I don't know. So you have the guy who played Tom Collins in Rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're over at the Fringe or whatever, and they're doing this like musical, and they're going to bring it to Broadway, but it's kind of starting from nothing. And then you have Tom and Deborah Messing and Ivy, and they're doing Marilyn on Broadway the way it was originally envisioned. And now they're both vying for a Tony by the end. So that's yeah, I
like how the Tonys become a main plot point.
As well it should.
Yeah, true, but it does feel very shoehorned in. It's like the last 2 episodes, they're like, oh wait, the Tonys. Well, that's how we're gonna, because I think they probably got the chop and they were like, you're not getting another season. So they were like, how do we wrap this up?
The Tonys.
The Tonys.
And we get
Jesse L. Martin.
Thank you.
Is his name.
And then we get a super cool guest appearance at the Tonys by Rosie O'Donnell, who plays herself for no reason.
Yep.
Because when you think musical theater, you think Rosie O'Donnell.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
And shocker, both musicals, Hit List and Bombshell, end up winning almost all of the nominations they got.
Yeah, because they're so good.
Yeah.
What my favorite part was the names of the musicals that they made up for the other nominees.
Yes, I totally forgot about that.
The Winter Storm. Yeah. The something about a horse, or what? You're like, what are these names?
But that's exactly how people name musicals.
I know, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so in your opinion, which musical is the better musical? Which one would you go see?
We have different opinions on this.
Bombshell or Hit List?
I think Bombshell is the better musical.
Hit List.
I think Bombshell.
I think you're crazy.
Hit List is it's like Hit List is more in the Legally Blonde Mean Girls. It's fun and it's ooh, edgy, silly. And then Bombshell is more like a classic.
It is classic Broadway.
Like Broadway. So it's the 2 different styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's probably just why we have different preferences.
So Kayley, what are some of your favorite musicals? Excuse me.
So my favorite, I guess OG, Broadway type musical is Rent. I love Rent. Very cheesy, corny, love it.
But see, that's more of a Hit List vibe.
Maybe.
Hit List is based on Rent. There's a poster of Rent.
Yeah, but in my opinion, the music in Hit List is not as good. In my opinion.
And then also Andy Mantis' character story is exactly Jonathan Larson's story.
Yeah. Well,
how do you love Rent, but you think Bombshell is a better musical than Hit List?
All of Smash is them making Rent illusions. That's the whole show. Like
in the second season.
Yeah.
Not the first season.
That's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Hit List is not thematically interesting to me because that show is just about like this superstar girl and she disappears and this guy's like whiny and sad because she left and then there's murders happening. They never really explain that too much.
No, the diva. She's in competition with
There's
the diva.
a diva.
And
yeah.
The diva murders
I don't
her.
know. It's just silly. It's fun. I would watch it if it was on stage. I don't know if I'd pay for it. I would pay for Bombshell because I want to see people in like. I want to see Megan Hilty with her yiddies up to her neck. I want to see her dancing slutty little baseball dances. I don't know.
Bombshell is definitely a period piece.
Yeah.
And so the costuming for sure.
Yeah.
Definitely Bombshell wins for costuming, but Hit List wins for choreography, hands down. Obstacles!
Yeah, okay.
Come
Like Heard Your
on.
Voice in a Dream. That has great.
That is the best choreography.
That is great choreo. But again, it's like so much of this choreo is so unnecessary. They just like loved the ensemble
Yeah,
characters.
they love the ensemble.
Yeah.
And who was in the ensemble?
Yeah.
Pippa Sue. Pippa Sue, who originated the role of Elizabeth Schuyler on Broadway, was in the ensemble of Hit List in season 2 of Smash.
Who you went to school with.
I sort of. She went to Libertyville and I went to Vernon Hills, but we did take improv together. At the shout out to the
Which is
Improv
cool.
Playhouse in Libertyville. David
very
Bryan
cool.
Stewart. Anyway, yeah, I doubt she would remember me at all, and that's fine.
No.
but
she's famous now.
She's insanely talented, and she always was. I saw her in Libertyville's high school production of Measure for Measure at the end of our senior year, and she was the lead, and she was. It was a very boring play, but she was very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either way, so neither here nor there. I think
You're a Hit List girl.
I think Hit List is a more fun musical. I think Bombshell really is meandering because like when they're like, now it's about her mother. Well, now it's about the men who made Marilyn, and now it's really sexy. But now it's like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. What are we doing, Kayley?
Yeah. No, there's some misfires for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, history is
But,
made
like,
at night.
I don't know.
What's the
Some of
point
the
of
Hit
that
List songs.
song?
Like, what's the song that Pippa Sue is in and she's dancing and like do 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 do. I'm like, God, this is just like an early 2010s like
What,
pop song.
Original? He wants.
Yes,
he wants,
yes,
he wants
that
to
song.
be
I was like,
original.
no.
She will
Like-
be. That's just a song about Lady Gaga.
Yeah. But it clearly inspired by that genre of music.
Well, they literally say, some may say that she was born this way.
Yeah.
She made herself a star. Like, it's about Lady Gaga.
Yeah. And I don't like Lady Gaga's music. So maybe that's why.
Oh. Okay, so real life, you love Rent. What else do you love?
I think let me like in my like core, like what I go back to the most is the last 5 years. Which Jeremy Jordan did a production of.
Yes, he did with Anna Kendrick.
I love the last, like the amount of thought space I've independently used to like think about last 5 years is too much.
So Jason Robert Brown is absolutely one of my favorite composers. He composed my favorite musical, which is Parade. And I love The Last 5 Years. And I also love Songs for a New World, which is like a collection of songs, which is also Jason Robert Brown. But Parade is my favorite
Parade
musical.
is really good, yeah.
It is so dark and sad, and the music is gorgeous. And it is about,
so sad.
I mean, it's about a Jewish man. It's about a real story.
Yeah.
Leo.
Is it real? Based on a real story?
Yeah, what was his name? Leo Frank. He was a real man. He really did live in Georgia in the early 1900s. He really was lynched for a crime that he did not commit. Spoiler alert. But it's a real story, and it's what I love about it is that Jason Robert Brown read like a tragic, sad, but kind of a obscure story
Right.
of just racism in the South, like not uncommon for that time, and said, I'm going to turn this tragic one-off story into a musical.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Who even thinks to do that?
Yeah.
Because
Was Ryan Murphy involved?
God, I hope so. Because the last 5 years is his own marriage. Like that's that's the story of Jason Robert Brown's marriage.
Yeah.
And her name in real life isn't Kathy, but Kathy is clearly based on his first wife. So I have love. I really did not want to like Jeremy Jordan and Anna Kendrick's version, but they got me.
I also like that movie version. I do not like Anna Kendrick as a vocalist.
Okay.
I think she did a good job as an actress. I think she acted it well.
She's a very good actress.
And I think because Kathy is sort of like this like overbearing, shrill in my mind type personality.
Sure.
Anna Kendrick's nasally voice didn't really take away from it for me,
yeah.
whereas it does with a lot of stuff she sings.
Well, Anna Kendrick just comes off as like a cool girl.
Does she?
Like
she comes off on like a goofball to me, not like a cool girl though.
Like a cool goofball though.
I guess.
Like the cool girl in your improv class. Like
sure,
she's
maybe.
here too, but she's the coolest one.
Maybe.
You were at 55 minutes.
Oh my God.
We really got carried away.
We can really talk about this for a long time. Okay, thank you. I don't know how to wrap this up. I don't even know. We're really
so
on such
thoughts
a roll.
on Glee versus Smash
Oh
in
God,
jest.
that was the point of the whole podcast was Glee versus Smash.
What do we think is better? What did they do better? What is more culturally impactful and relevant today?
Well, Glee is culturally impactful.
Yeah, no one's even heard of Smash.
Yeah,
Everyone knows about Glee.
People know what Glee is. It made a huge dent in what you could do on television, just as far as choreography and singing and musical and being problematic, but like openly problematic and like really problematic. And they just kind of went there, and it really did launch Ryan Murphy, because then he gets to do American Horror Story. He did Dahmer, right?
He did Dahmer. He did all of those like true crime things, like Gianni Versace.
Yes,
the OJ thing,
which was
right?
with Darren Criss.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Ryan Murphy is like known for having like wild orgies and stuff with like all the queer people in Hollywood. And I feel like he gets these actors under his little thumb, and then he just like uses them and squeezes out all of the sexual energy out of them until they do nothing else after his projects.
I'm fine
and Sarah Paulson's there too.
Always.
Yeah.
Yeah, naturally.
She's like under his little
Did he
thumb.
also do Nurse Ratched? Was that Ryan Murphy?
I think so. I think he did.
I did not love it.
If I'm wrong, I could be wrong, but I think he did.
Sarah Paulson did a great job, but it
Ratched
wasn't a
was
great
not
show.
good, no.
Anyway, well, okay. So I think Smash is a better show.
Yes.
I think just as far as like the writing goes, the acting goes, the casting goes, like it is more realistic. I think the costuming in season 1 is atrocious, but season 2 gets its act together.
Ish. It gets better.
It
never
better.
gets good, but it gets better.
But I just love that Steven Spielberg is like, I really want this to be a thing.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
he just has this like little closet of scarves, and every week he and Teresa Rebag sit down and they talk about what scarf that Deborah Messing is
I
going to
want to
wear
know how much
today.
money he lost on this project. Like, there's no way he made money off
Yeah,
of Smash.
but what is it? What is a couple $1 million to Steven Spielberg? This was a passion project for him.
Yeah.
And so I think Smash is a better show. I think what it set out to do, it did better of a higher quality. Smash also has its misfires, but I think culturally, Glee is the original.
And you know what I think the big difference is that Glee was marketed towards teenagers, specifically teenage girls. And as we know, teenage girls rule culture.
Yes.
They run everything.
Yes.
If you get them on your side, you're in the zeitgeist for...
I don't think
Until
Glee
they forget
was
about you.
properly marketed.
Glee?
Or, I'm sorry, Smash.
I agree.
Yeah.
I didn't even know about it until I was in college. How does a girl like me not know about Smash until I'm in college?
I found out about it from a commercial, but I think Smash did the same thing that Glee did, where they released the pilot at the end of a season, like at the end of in the spring.
Right.
And then they're like, here's the pilot, tune in the fall.
Right.
To see the show.
Right.
So I think they actually did the same thing, because Glee did that too, if I recall correctly.
Glee did that because I remember seeing the pilot months before the show came out.
And you were hooked.
I was hooked.
The pilot for Glee. Okay, final question. Who had the better pilot, Glee or Smash?
I think Glee.
You think so?
I do.
Yeah, okay. You might be right. Smash had a great pilot.
Smash is a really good pilot, but I think Glee hooks you.
Glee does hook you.
Because he's had so much time to perfect it, right? Because that's just the pilot of Popular.
Yes, it is.
With musical numbers in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Ryan Murphy had really
He'd been
thought about
cooking it
this.
for a while.
He had.
You know?
Teresa was like, oh, wouldn't this be kind of fun?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Ryan Murphy's like, this is my life's
And Steven
work.
Spielberg was like, I'll give you money.
For scarves and jewelry from Target.
To traumatize more theater kids. Amazing.
All right. Well, I think we've really solved this.
I think
know
we did
you
an
guys were
adequate job.
concerned. Yeah, okay. So Glee versus Smash. We think Glee is more impactful on the culture, but Smash might be of a higher quality, but who cares? All right, guys, this has been the 4Foot10 Podcast. I've been your host, Ariel Julie, and this has been my guest, Kayley Horton. Kayley, do you want to promote your socials?
Hi, yeah, you can follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. I should probably post more on TikTok at Kayley Drinks Milk, Kayley Drinks Milk. I'll be there.
Great. And you can follow me at Ariel Julie Comedy. Thank you so much. Bye.